Hobbes believed man will leave freedom behind under a great power. With a more socialized society, citizens can coexist in peace and safety knowing man is civilized. In this documentary, we'll look at the Hobbesian theory of human nature and test whether it can be applied to modern-day organ donation. Organ donation is believed to be a move towards a more cohesive, empathetic, self-sacrificing, and peaceful society. All of this could not exist in Hobbes' idea of the state of war. However, Hobbes' 3 laws of nature hold some truth to modern-day organ donation. But still, these laws fail to recognize the possibilities that come from the evolution of society. Individuals are no longer self-interested for survival, but are rather driven to thrive in society. By donating organs, alive or not, individuals are generating a stronger sense of solidarity. This supports the idea that the common consciousness is less self-interested. Thomas Hobbes was an English professor who lived from 1588 to 1679. He graduated from Magdalen Hall, a constituent college of the University of Oxford in England, at the age of 20, and is known today as one of the founding fathers of modern philosophy. Hobbes provided the world with a new lens to address the relationship between the government and the roles of man, something previous philosophers failed to acknowledge. He is best known for authoring the book entitled Leviathan. The Leviathan dove into social contract theory. It identified what Hobbes believed to be the core of human nature, or what it means to be human. For Hobbes, if man were left in a state of nature, there would only be 3 laws. These laws would be called the laws of nature, and would reflect the inherent self-interest of man. In the Leviathan, Hobbes says that the only way for man to lift themselves out of their natural state of violence and fear is for them to exchange their freedom for a social contract with others to accept a central authority. He conceptualizes the social contract with the creation of what he calls the laws of human nature. We will take a look at those laws and relate them to modern-day organ donation.
Organ donation was not always an option. The first successful organ transplant was a kidney not too long ago in 1964. In 1984, the National Organ Transplant Act, passed by Congress, prohibited the selling of human organs, establishes the Organ Procurement and Transplantation Network to ensure fair and equitable allocation of donated organs, and the Scientific Registry of Transplant Recipients to conduct an ongoing evaluation of the scientific and clinical status of organ transplantation. It also provided for grants for the establishment, initial operation, and expansion of organ procurement organizations. In terms of motive, people see donating their organs as saving lives. By donating your organs after you die, you can save or improve as many as 50 lives. Many families say that knowing their loved one helped save other lives helped them cope with their loss. In a military and some religious communities, donating your organs can protect your reputation or add to it. Many see it as an act of peace toward another human and hopes to aid them in staying alive. According to government statistics on organ donation, 95% of adults support organ donation and 54% are registered organ donors. This coincides with the idea that the collective consciousness has moved away from being violently self-interested and more toward a coexisting in an empathetic society. Hobbes' first law of nature is to seek peace and follow it. In a recap of Hobbes' book, Leviathan, Jonathan Bennett explains that the passions that incline men to peace are fear of death and desire for things that are necessary for comfortable living. This law does not allow you to end your life. You must protect yourself and the things that you have that allow you to protect yourself from harm or danger. It used to be that an object was yours until someone took it from you. However, today there is technology that shows us we can live a healthy life with half or none of a remaining organ. We are able to live a healthy life with just 1 kidney or half a liver. If we give up an organ, we help someone else, and there's little sacrifice for the donor. By donating an organ, the donor is demonstrating that he or she wants to end someone else's pain and suffering. This depicts society as having empathy, compassion, and kindness. By donating an organ, the donor demonstrates their effort towards reaching peace. Transplantation gives hope to thousands of people struggling with organ failure. Knowing there is organ donation available in one's country, there is a subconscious relief. Some individuals view organ donation as a civil duty, which then allows them to seek peace through fulfilling that duty. And because of this, It is the reason why organ donation has succeeded in becoming an integral part of medicine in the United States and all over the world. In the second law of nature, Hobbes states, "When a man thinks that peace and self-defense require it, he should be willing, when others are too, to lay down his right to everything, and should be contented with as much liberty against other men as he would allow other men against himself." If we hold this idea as true, to treat others as you wish to be treated, we can then say that it is a covenant in which each individual would want the availability of an organ if they are in need of one. Therefore, they too should donate their organs in good faith. In Leviathan, the people could depend on the autocratic authority to fulfill its responsibility of the organ donation system to save lives. One can be at peace in being a loyal subject, complying with organ donation regulation, as well as the potential to be a beneficiary. By donating to one person, an individual can preserve 8 lives. Conversely, there is also a sense of peace one gets from knowing they do not have to donate their organs if they do not wish to do so in modern Western society. This is the key difference from what Hobbes' view on organ donation would be. In modern day, we have the liberty to make a choice for ourselves, as well as exercise ownership of our own bodies. However, for Hobbes, if you enter a covenant, you must follow through and perform the duties that come along with it, which would mean there would be no opt-out option as offered in modern day. This will lead us into discussing Hobbes' third law of nature. Hobbes' third law of nature states, "Men should perform the covenants they make." According to Hobbes, all men should honor their side of an agreement to prevent from living in a condition of war. However, he says, to break a covenant is unjust, and the definition of injustice is simply the non-performance of a covenant. Without this law, according to Hobbes, all men retain the right to all things so that we are still in the condition of war. Keeping our word should keep our order. Donating Life California, or DLC, is the state-authorized nonprofit organization responsible for managing the organ, eye, and tissue donor registry, are strong advocates for presumed consent. This means you are automatically signed up to be an organ donor when you get your driver's license. Instead of choosing to opt in, now you must choose to opt out of this service. With the DLC's organ transplant waiting list already exceeding 117,000 people and growing roughly 10% a year, the alone 28,000 transplants performed annually just aren't enough. With the enactment of this presumed consent concept, we are bound to a covenant of donating our bodies after death, unless deemed otherwise. Therefore, according to Hobbes' third law of nature, all California drivers who don't opt out should donate their organs. People understand they are also exercising their right to do so. This idea comes from the right of nature, which Hobbes says, one has the liberty to do so as one sees necessary to preserve himself. Now men differ in their strengths of power, but are generally equal. Fear may intervene, but if there are 2 people who want the same thing, Hobbes says the natural consequence of their mutual desire is war. However, has Hobbes considered the mutual desire to save a life? When one person donates an organ to another, he is sacrificing a piece of one body, but for the purpose of satisfying his desire to save another's life. In today's times, decisions and values are based on what is good for the whole. Hobbes further assumes, as a key principle to common sense, that people should do what they deem necessary to meet their most important ends. He wants us to seek peace with willing, living others, and we can do that with organ donation. Individuals are not only restricted to their own rights, but can jointly exercise their right to preserve not only himself, but his own race. This ability to act on another's behalf for the common good demonstrates that the individual has more than just rights to protect himself.
While thousands of people choose to donate their organs every year, there are still many who would never consider doing so. In the article, People's Attitudes and Reactions to Organ Donation, health service researcher Margareta A. Scanner uses both questionnaire surveys and qualitative interviews to conduct a study on people's reaction to organ donation. The result of her surveys indicates that about 65% of the adult population and 72% of teenagers recognize various types of discomfort when contemplating organ donation. The most common discomfort is the illusion of lingering life, which means that it is difficult to imagine the difference between the living and the dead body, that the procedures with the corpse are perceived as conducted on a living body. However, for the majority, the discomfort is an initial reaction that dissolves when put against altruistic and fact-stressing arguments. Other anti-donation factors include protection of the individual's value, respecting the dead body, distrust of healthcare, nature's borders, and the border of identity. The donation of organs and tissues is seen by society in general as an act of solidarity and love from the family. Family members are more likely to donate a part of their body because of the deep bonds of solidarity between them and their kin. Accessibility to information plays a factor as well. For example, families who understand well the diagnosis of brain death are more favorable to organ donation compared to families who believe that death only occurs after the heart stops. The number of patients who benefit from receiving an organ has been drastically reduced due to the poor level of information concerning brain death, stigmatized fear of organ trading propagated by the media, along with many other reasons. Communities are so invested in organ donation that even compensation is offered for organ donations. If people by nature are inherently self-interested, as Hobbes states, then how do you suppose the idea of organ donation came to exist in the first place? There must be an alternative explanation for human nature. Given Hobbes' theory, we can assume that he might think this would only be possible under a complete monarch system. If an organ donation equates to the sword for safety and security, then perhaps without the king's administration, people would hold on to the organs after death or just sell them top dollar opposed to donating them for the greater good. Without the king's administration, people would be self-interested. From this, what did Hobbes miss? Society has evolved, and some people's interests become empathy, kindness, love, and compassion. In modern day, individuals are no longer in the state of war as Hobbes describes. Although people continue to still be self-interested, the societal characteristics of self-interest has evolved into something different than what Hobbes describes. Individuals tend to be self-interested towards their personal goals and desires rather than the more lawless and violent sense that Hobbes describes. Organ donation demonstrates that the collective consciousness has moved towards a more empathetic, compassionate, and cohesive society, ruled by a democracy rather than monarchy. This also demonstrates the liberty individuals have over their bodies, and the right to make the choice if they want to donate their organs or not.
Organ donation is a way individuals can seek peace and help to save lives. The fact that the idea exists in the first place is an indicator of the evolution of our time and a move toward a more compassionate, empathetic, and loving society. In the Leviathan, all surrender their swords so that the king may wield one big sword on behalf of the people. In life, people are susceptible to disease which may cause death, and therefore, if the people are entered into a covenant regarding organ donation, then one has to surrender their organs for the greater good that is administered by the king. Instead of the king wielding one big sword in the name of the people, he is wielding a mandated organ donation system to save and rescue the living. Then organ donation becomes the almighty sword. In an organ donation system, the king would have designees to carry out the day-to-day operations. People like physicians, nurses, surgical staff, pharmacy staff, accountants, and sanitization custodial staff would be needed. In essence, organ donation would be the king's sword. Hobbes' theory in Leviathan does not pass in the modern era. In Western civilization, the people have free will, the right to vote, and have self-determination to decide if they would like to surrender their sword or participate in the authorities' organ donation system. For various reasons, one may not want to donate their organs for religious reasons, lack of education, or perhaps pure preference. The development and evolution of society has distanced the people from an archaic and wild era of the past where they had to depend on an autocratic authority for safety and security.